High above the Las Vegas Strip, a 366-foot-tall celestial body has landed in a sea of asphalt. It transforms from a terrifying, blinking eyeball to a swirling cosmic nebula, pulsating with enough light to be seen from the moon. This is the Sphere, a $2.3 billion gamble on the future of human experience. But behind the glowing facade, a financial storm is brewing. Building the world's most advanced venue is one thing, making it pay for itself is another. To grasp the sheer scale of the Sphere's financial crater, you have to look at the math, or the terrifying lack of it. When Misch Entertainment first pitched this project in 2018, the budget was a somewhat reasonable $1.2 billion. But there is a reason the world is built with right angles and flat beams. They are predictable. The Sphere is anything but. By 2019, the price tag climbed to $1.7 billion. By 2022, it hit $2.55 billion. By the time the final bolt was tightened, the bill was $2.3 billion. That is a 91% cost overrun. Because spherical geometry defies the laws of traditional architecture, every single component had to be custom engineered from scratch. Standard cranes couldn't reach the required angles. Conventional scaffolding simply couldn't hold the shape. To prevent the project from collapsing under its own debt mid-construction, Misch was forced to cannibalize its most profitable assets, raiding the bank accounts of the legendary Radio City Music Hall and Madison Square Garden itself just to keep the lights on in Vegas. They weren't just building a theater, they were funding a $2 billion experiment with no safety net. In the world of Vegas entertainment, there is a golden rule. The venue usually has a casino downstairs to print money while the band plays upstairs. The Sphere, however, is an island. It has no slot machines, no hotel rooms, and no high-end restaurants. It is a pure ticket and sponsorship play, which means it lives and dies by the deal. That reality became painfully clear with the U2 launch. Bono and company were the perfect partners, 40 sold-out shows and a massive $244 million in gross revenue. But the Sphere reportedly only walked away with $24.4 million. The split was roughly 90% to the artist and 10% to the house. Because the Sphere is the most technologically advanced stage on Earth, every elite artist now has total leverage. They know the Sphere needs them to prove the tech works, so they demand the lion's share. When a typical show grosses $3.5 million and the house only keeps $350,000 after expenses, the math stops working. The very thing the building was designed for, concerts, has become a financial loss leader. Even if the economics were perfect, the building itself began fighting the audience on opening night. It turns out that approximately 800 premium seats, the kind of seats that should be the best in the house, physically cannot see the screen properly. In Section 100, rows 24 through 37, the overhanging upper decks cut off the top of the immersive dome. These were VIP packages selling for anywhere from $2,600 to over $4,000, sold without any disclosure of an obstructed view. When you pay the price of a used car for a total immersion experience and end up looking at a concrete ceiling, you don't leave happy. The Sphere was forced to offer quiet refunds and relocations, which served as a public admission that the product was fundamentally broken for a segment of the audience. Then came the vertigo problem. The 160-degree wraparound visuals, combined with steep seating angles, made some fans physically ill. At a $5,500 price point, nausea is a difficult brand identity to maintain. In a traditional arena, a band rolls in, plugs in their amps, and plays. At the Sphere, you can't just book a band. The interior screen has a resolution of 16,000 by 16,000 pixels. It requires months, sometimes a year of custom 3D content production just to make a show look right. You can't shoot a concert on standard cameras and project it. The geometry of the dome would distort it into a funhouse mirror. This creates a massive content gap. In 2024, the venue managed about 70 concerts. Even if they had hit their 2025 goal of 100 shows, that leaves 265 nights where the building is essentially a very expensive dark room. To fill those gaps, they need movies, but producing a film for this format is so expensive and specialized that they can't pivot quickly if a booking falls through. Also, if you read the glossy quarterly reports, you'll see phrases like adjusted operating income showing profits of $13 million or $24 million. It looks like a success story in the making, but those aren't the real numbers. The adjusted figures conveniently leave out employee compensation, debt servicing, and the massive $84 million per quarter cost of depreciation. When you look at the actual GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles numbers, the truth is staggering. The Sphere has lost roughly $570 million since its doors opened. It is bleeding between $80 million and $95 million every single quarter. While the eye on the outside looks like it's watching the world, the bank account on the inside is watching a slow-motion train wreck. But believe it or not, there is a redemption story happening beneath the surface, but it's not the one the developers originally imagined. The Sphere is undergoing a massive strategic pivot because the math of a movie theater is simply better than the math of a concert hall. Think about the U2 deal again. The Sphere only kept about 10% of the revenue after the rock stars took their cut. But with a film, the math flips. When the Sphere produces its own content, it keeps 100% of the ticket sales. No prima donna lead singers, no 90-10 splits, and no massive touring crews to house. The proof is in The Wizard of Oz. This wasn't just a movie, it was a custom-engineered experience filmed specifically for the 16K dome. It launched and immediately became a financial juggernaut. By early 2026, it had sold over 2 million tickets, generating more than $260 million in revenue. Unlike a concert that plays once a night, a film can run 5 times a day, every day, with almost zero overhead. One film generated 10 times the revenue of a 40-show U2 residency, running continuously without a single ego-driven negotiation. And by late 2025, The Wizard of Oz was bringing in roughly $2 million a day. On paper, the momentum is real. Revenue is scaling at a pace that has analysts projecting a gross profit of over $500 million in 2026. If they can maintain this, the Sphere could reach full profitability, including all that crushing debt and depreciation, by 2027. But that projection is a house of cards built on 3 massive assumptions. First, it assumes wizard-level demand year-round. Second, it assumes they can finally bully future artists into better revenue splits. And third, it assumes 365-day utilization. The problem? One flop, one movie that doesn't wow the crowd, and that $2 million a day faucet turns off instantly. In Vegas, new becomes old faster than anywhere else on Earth. Once the novelty of the screen wears off, the Sphere has to provide a story that's worth $100 a ticket. If they can't, they are left with a $2.3 billion television that no one is watching. But perhaps the baffling part of the Sphere's story is what's happening right now. While the original Las Vegas location is still gasping for air and bleeding cash, MISC is doubling down. A second, full-size Sphere has already been greenlit for Abu Dhabi. A smaller, 6,000-seat version was recently announced for Maryland. To many economists, this looks like the sunk cost fallacy on a global scale. The logic is that by building more Spheres, they can spread the astronomical cost of content production across multiple venues. If you spend $50 million to make a 16K movie, it's a lot easier to swallow if that movie plays in 3 cities instead of 1. But it's a high-stakes game. If the Vegas model hasn't proven it can survive a recession or a dip in tourism, expanding the footprint could just mean a bigger collapse. They are betting on expansion before proving the core model actually works. And the broader industry is watching the Sphere like a hawk. It has become a $2.3 billion case study in what happens when ambition runs faster than the business plan. The lesson is clear: immersive technology cannot survive on spectacle alone. It needs either an integrated revenue stream, like a casino or a hotel, or a content model that doesn't trap the venue in predatory negotiations with artists. The Sphere is proving that spectacular engineering is worthless if the economics are broken. They built the world's greatest concert hall only to realize they were actually building the world's most expensive movie theater. They are currently a high-tech planetarium on steroids, trying to pay off a mortgage that would make a small nation tremble. So, is the Sphere a genius blueprint for the 22nd century? Or a $2.3 billion lesson in hubris? The technical achievement is undeniable. To stand inside that dome is to feel the future. But the financial damage is already deep. Mish is betting that they can content their way out of a hole dug by construction overruns and design flaws. They are betting that the world will never tire of the giant eyeball in the desert. Spectacle and sustainability are rarely roommates. Right now, in Las Vegas, the Sphere is proving that you can light up the sky and still be in the dark when it comes to the bottom line. It's a $2-3 billion question. Does impressive actually pay the rent? What do you think? Can the Sphere survive by just showing movies, or is the financial weight of that 366-foot orb eventually going to crush the dream? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and for more stories, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.